Okay, this video is going to look at how to rearrange equations and then also the ways lines intersect. So the first thing, rearranging equations. This is an important skill that you do a lot of in math. You also do a lot of it in science. And basically it's just changing the equation, making the equation look different to isolate a certain variable, a certain letter. So these questions could be written, if it wants you to arrange, in a few different ways. So this first one here, sit in there. Solve, zoom back out of it. Solve 13p minus 2y equals 14 plus p in terms of y. That's basically saying try to get, or get, not try to, do it, get y by itself. You're not going to get an answer of y equals 5 or negative 2. You're not going to get a numerical answer. You're going to get y equals so many numbers plus p. How you rearrange is the exact same way you solve equations, right? You want to get rid of terms. So if we're looking at this problem, and I want to get the y term by itself, and there's the y term, so that means I want to get rid of that 13p, sorry. I still have the negative 2y on the left side. 14 plus 10p. When you move that 13p over the equal sign, it becomes the opposite operation, the inverse operation. So it becomes a minus 13p. I can clean up that left side, and I'm going to do that right away. Always simplify as you go through your math to make it easier. 10p minus 13p is just minus 3p's. So I have the y term by itself, but I want to rearrange for y, just one y. Currently I have negative 2y's. So to get rid of the negative 2y, the inverse operation, divide everything by negative 2. So you have y equals 14 divided by negative 2 is negative 7. Careful on this one, negative 3p divided by negative 2p is a positive 3 over 2p. Right. Or a solution might be written like this, because in math we tend to write the variable terms first, so the p term first, the 7 second, but both of those final answers are rearranged correctly. So let's go down the page here. 35g equals negative 8h plus 11k. I want to solve this one in terms of h. So you want to get this equation with h by itself. Here's the h term. So I want to get that by itself. I'm going to get rid of that plus 11k. I'm going to move it over the equal sign. You move over at plus 11k, it becomes the inverse. And just like on the example above, I just want one h. It doesn't say in terms of negative 8 h's, so I have to get rid of the negative 8. And to do that, you divide everything by negative 8. Negative 35g's divided by negative 8. The numbers don't reduce, but a negative divided by a negative is really just a positive. Same thing with negative 11k divided by negative 8. That becomes a positive. Two more examples here. P equals 2L plus W. Solve this one in terms of L. So get L by itself. This one you could do a couple different ways. Here's the L term. I could get rid of that multiplying of 2 out front of the brackets by dividing by 2. Right, so I could do this. And then this would be gone. And I would have P over 2 equals L plus W. Move the W over. So there's option 1. Option 2, you might want to expand the bracket. Right? And here, move the 2w over. And then divide by 2. P divided by 2 is just P over 2. Or you could write it as 1/2 P. It's the same thing. Minus W equals L. So you have the same solution, no matter which of those things you do first. And then this last one. AX plus BY equals C. Solve this in terms of B. Okay. So I'm going to move AX over. And then I'm going to divide everything by Y. I actually would have liked that question better if it said in terms of Y, not in terms of B, but that's okay. So that's what rearranging is. You do a lot of that in science. In math, we do a lot of rearranging. We're going to look at a concept coming up shortly called substitution. And in order to use the concept of substitution, you need to have one equation with a variable isolated. So you can isolate, if we're talking math stuff now, it's x's and y's. You can isolate x, or you can isolate y. And you want to be comfortable to isolate for both of them, because sometimes x will be easier and sometimes y will be easier. The first question that we're going to work on, or the next question I should say, solve the following in terms of x. So that means let's get x by itself. For A, if I want to get x by itself, you could, and I haven't been doing this, and I should maybe mention it, you could move your x term to this side, right? When it says in terms of x, we always think it needs to be x equals. We need x on the left-hand side. I don't want to do that, because when I do that, that ends up being a negative 6x, and then I'll have to move that 2y over, and it becomes a negative 2y. There's a lot of negatives. When you rearrange, you want to try to do it in a way that's kind of efficient, right? And we know if we have lots of negative signs, we make a lot of mistakes. So instead of moving the 6x and the 2y, I'm just going to move that 10 over first. And now, just like above, divide by that coefficient. When you do that, always simplify your fractions. Don't leave that as 2 over 6. 2 over 6 is really 1/3. 10 over 6 is 5/3. Maybe, we've done a few examples in this video, it's a good chance for you to pause it and try B and C on your own. Can you isolate x correctly? Then resume the video and check the answers. Move the plus 2y over, it becomes a minus 2y. And now divide everything by 12. You get 1x, 18 over 12. You can divide 6 from the top and 6 from the bottom. 2 over 12y's, you can divide 2 and 12 by 2. And last one that we're going to isolate for x, 8 equals 2y minus 6x. Let's move that y term over here. And then divide everything by 6. Reduce those fractions. There you go. So rearranging for x, that's something we do in the concept of substitution. So it is something that we will do. The next question is a more common one. Solve the following in terms of y. Especially with linear stuff, if we can solve equations in terms of y, we end up with that equation y equals mx plus b. So we can see the slope very quickly and the y-intercept. Right, so once we get a line in that form, we can graph it really quickly by plotting the y-intercept and the slope. And in the next concept the video is going to look at, we can also see like how many intersection points would those two lines have. We can compare the lines. All right, so let's solve these three equations, A, B, and C, in terms of y. I'm going to move the 10x over. I'm going to have a lot of negatives, and I'm purposely doing it this way just so you can see common mistakes that might happen. I'm going to put the x term in front of the number -20, just to keep it in the y equals mx's plus b format. Now divide by a -4. -10 divided by -4 is actually a positive. 10 and 4 are both divisible by 2. -20 divided by -4 is actually a positive. So you get a +5. So 2 steps, we have a nice y equals mx equation. So if you're going to graph it, you plot your intercept at 5, and then from there go up 5 over 2. Very easy to graph. Second one, I have 1/3 y. I want to move my x term to the other side. And again, I like to put the x in front of the number just to keep it in that mx plus b form. Now to get rid of 1/3 y, I just want a single y. I can multiply by 3. It's the same concept as clearing of fractions that we've looked at in our grade 9 review. 1/3 times 3 is just 1. -2 times 3 is -6. And 10 times 3 is 30. C. Okay. Here, instead of moving the 2y and then the 8, all I'm going to do is move the 6x over. It's going to be one less step. So it'll be a -6x plus 8 equals 2y. And like you've seen all the time now, we're dividing by that coefficient. -6 divided by 2 is -3x. 8 divided by 2 is 4 equals y. So that covers the concept of rearranging. I'm going to do a second video that covers the concept of how many ways lines can intersect.